Oh, John, how's your rooster? How's your rooster, John?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Independent Truckers, right here on the Truckers Independent Broadcasting Network. We got a slew of guys coming in today. The MCSAC meeting happened there these last couple of days. Sean and I was listening. Leland Schmidt was listening. I believe Kevin Steichen had caught some of it himself, and we thought we'd come on and talk a little bit about what we had heard, what we had seen, and get into a little bit, but first, let me bring in Leland Schmidt because it's just not right to have a show without him.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, Leland Schmidt, how you doing, brother?
I'm good. How are you?
We're doing excellent, man. I think we got a good full room here. So I think the first order of business is I got a letter to read. You listen to them guys long enough, you start talking like them. First order of business here. I know it's going to break a lot of hearts, I'm sure. Or maybe
Do you want
not.
a drum roll first?
Huh?
Do you want a drum roll?
Drum roll would be good, but that's okay. Spare yourself the trouble. So, guys and gals, anybody that's listening, I want to be the first to tell you. So, they have removed me from the driver panel. So, I'm no longer on the driver panel for the Motor Carrier Safety Advisory Committee's subcommittee, the drivers panel. So they didn't give me any reason why, but the letter reads, as of the date of this letter, your appointment has been terminated. Thank you for your interest in serving on the drivers subcommittee and for your contributions to the trucking industry. We all share the responsibility of ensuring that truck drivers operate under conditions that guarantee their safety and the safety of everyone on the roadways. And that was signed by Mira Shashi, the deputy administrator. She did not give me a reason why she removed me. She just told me she removed me. My suspicion is I do the Common Sense Conservative show. Now, I don't know if anybody's been listening to the show, but we do talk a lot of politics, government, and we're not afraid to pick on the lefties. So, for that reason, I may have been removed. I don't know. But you know what? So be it. What are you going to do? I don't like this background image, Sean.
Hey, you're the one with the controls.
Yeah, it looks kind of confusing the way it's all set up. So take that out of there and just give a background image. So I don't know if anybody else has caught the MCSAC.
I have an idea of a bullseye and who to put in the bullseye, but I don't want to offend a snowflake.
You don't want to offend it. You don't want them melting on your regards, huh?
Well, I'll tell you this, but it comes from Grain Valley.
It comes from...
and I call him Acorn.
So, if anybody doesn't understand, Sean has a love-hate relationship with Todd Spencer, and I don't think Todd Spencer's all that aware. Well, he knows who Sean Mitchell is because Sean pokes at him from time to time. So...
Well, I called it Chrome Dome and you got upset.
Well, damn it, dude. Why wouldn't I get upset? Look at this shit. Chrome Dome.
Look at that.
Look at all you fuckers with all that hair.
What's up? I'll send you a wig.
I'm taking it personal here. yeah, with all that mullet, man.
I'm getting my hair cut Saturday. The girl already told me if I get it all the way cut off, get the hell out of her shop, but I'll make sure she sends you some.
Yeah, even the girls get jealous of Sean's mullet. So we haven't done a show in 4 months, Sean. So it's kind of
But it's
interesting
great
to
to
be.
be back with you, John. It really is. I did enjoy our shows, and I did miss what we were doing together. And it's great to Kevin. I finally get to see you. It's great to see you,
Good to see you guys.
Leland and Scotty. I haven't seen you guys for a while.
Hey, I'm just curious. Is it just my phone, or is Mitchell sounding like he's bobbing up and down out of water?
He doesn't have the best connection where he's at. Nothing we can do about it on our end as far as the technical aspect goes. It just is what it is, I guess. He's changed microphones. He's played with it. He's done the best he can so he can be here with us. So,
Okay, I just didn't know if it was me or him.
yeah, it's breaking up a little bit. It's in and out. So,
Okay.
I'm in Wyoming tonight.
Wyoming, the place of minimum cell phone service, right?
Well, I'll give you a hint. It's next to a prison.
Next to a prison. No wonder. They don't need cell phone service there. Let's see. So we
Since I got censored today, I'm surprised they didn't call them and had made arrangements for me.
Yeah, right. So Sean went off there today. During the MCSAC. So how it's set up is they use Microsoft meetings, and you can come in as a guest, and they have comment sections. It's almost like a social media type of meeting place, and where you can make comments and stuff. And so Sean was feeling quite liberated with the comments, and I guess he had a couple things to say to Mr. Spencer and Mr. Before too long, they decided maybe Sean shouldn't be making comments.
Here's the short story of the meeting. Here's the way I took short story of the meeting, being a journalist. Kevin got pushed aside. I got censored. Leland sat there and was like, what the hell is going on? And what did you get? You got the Arlene Bennett treatment. Oh, hi, John. Thanks for your opinion. We'll go ahead and capture that. What the hell is up with that?
It's kind of fun making a statement there today, but okay, so
you made a statement in the short story. Was you told him the FMCSA was broke?
All in all, the meeting, it was kind of an interesting meeting to listen to. You'd normally think it would be a bore you to tears sort of meeting. Don't listen to it while you're driving. You might find yourself sleeping behind the wheel. And in some instances, they got the moments where it was kind of that way. In general, it was some standard shit. They basically covered the same sort of stuff you've been hearing through the years. Same sort of rhetoric. Bring in the electronic control devices. That was great for Steve Owens. He really loves them. We were fortunate enough to have Jerry. What was Jerry's name? Fritz? Was it, Sean?
Mm-hmm.
I believe it was Jerry Fritz is his name. I think I'm screwing it up somehow.
The two that stuck out the most in my mind was Jerry and Danny.
Danny Schnaub would have been really good to have as a chairman on the subcommittee.
Yes.
He'd have been excellent. But
Danny just hit all the points right, left, and right, and basically, in my opinion, his statement, he was the first one to speak. And quite frankly, in my opinion, Danny pretty much his statement said it all.
I think so. Would you like to fill us in on what was being stated, or?
Well, when it came to the fact about using certain devices for speed distance devices, he was totally against that.
Oh, the crash mitigation systems.
Well, whatever the technical term is. Jerry was definitely against the speed limiters, even though he did apologize. And he was very sincere when he said, Steve, I'm sorry, but I thought the man was very truthful in what he said.
Oh, yeah, he was, well, Scott, Leland, you had an opinion on that, didn't you?
I did. The one thing that was brought out that I didn't catch the beginning of, and Lisa got right away because I didn't have it on fast enough, is how they are praising how much data they're able to catch off everybody's ELD and use data to tell speed and everything. I got on at the tail end of that. would you say his name was Daniel? He did point out the fact that you can't use all of that AEB and lane departure and everything in Montana and Wyoming and the Dakotas because it doesn't work because of the weather up there, where the other people were all just, oh, we need this. And I got to give kudos to Kevin, because Kevin sat there and listened to everything, and he says, no, I'm going to put this as nice as I can, but the people that are sitting in there and never drive a truck not be dictating what should or shouldn't be on a truck. I'm sorry, it just doesn't work. I don't mean to be rude, but it's the way it is. And I thought that was great. It is.
Well,
it's true.
Kevin, I missed
and look, I wasn't trying to be a dick, but it's something that, my past involvement with USTA and whatnot, that's something that we have tried pounding through their heads for the last few years, while we were doing that, because the fact of the matter is, like I said, there's no two people that have the same scenario on a daily basis. Lee, you saw different stuff than I saw today. Scott, you did. Sean, you did. John, you did. I mean, everything's different. And the bottom line of it is you got a bunch of pencil pushers that sit behind a desk, that sit there and look at a computer screen, and they say, well, look, the statistics say. I don't give a fuck what the statistics say. And,
right.
And it frustrates me. And the worst part about what I did, I was in a hurry because I was losing service, and I wanted to get out what I got out. I felt like I rushed it way too much. I could have been better, but they muted me twice. The one time they muted me, I was kind of taken back by it. The second time, I just hurried up and pushed the *6 again and unmuted myself really quick. And then at the end, they just shut me off.
Well, I got to tell you guys, that system, I think I might owe Desiree Wood an apology. By the way, I thought that some of her statements were really right on. I think she was representing truck drivers really well in a lot of regards. She brought up some stuff nobody else was bringing up and things that have been of interest to truck drivers for many years, and I thank her for her participation. She came in as a guest, by the way. She's not a member of the MCSAC. She's a member of the subcommittee, but she also attends the MCSAC as a guest. And the way the system worked, anybody can come in as a guest. So when you go to Eventbrite, you register and everything. When you come in, you're listed as a guest, and they got a thing like most conference calls and things. You can push a button to raise your hand, and if they call on you, you get to open up your mic and speak. Apparently, they didn't have mic controls, or they didn't have a very good job. Yesterday, when they had a presenter by the last name Belazar, I don't recall his first name, but he was a former truck driver who got a PhD, and now he's advocating for trucking in certain regards, and he wrote a book. I want to look it up and see what the name of his book is. It sounds very interesting, and he got in a lot of heavy discussion about post-deregulation trucking and how the trucking industry has suffered from it. At any rate, while he was talking, they were having problems with the controls. And it comes up on my screen, and presumably it came up on everybody's screen the same, that you could take over the presentation. And it says, you are now a presenter. And it had arrows on each side, and it had a square in the center, and I forgot what the square did. And, I didn't want to touch it. I wanted to be an adult about it and not mess up the man's presentation, especially since he was doing such a fine job. But I wondered sometimes if I could really do that or not. At one time, they went on break yesterday and for an hour for lunch. So I'm sitting there, and I noticed the microphone was wide open. I'm thinking, well, they can hear anything that's going on in this truck right now. But they were all on break, so they were gone. And when they come back, I tried to mute the microphone out, and it unmuted itself again. And so I tried to mute it, and it unmuted. I'm like, well, they must be in control. So when it did go into recording mode again, it muted me back out. So I was fine with that.
Oh, no. Yeah.
So,
go ahead, John.
Later on in the day, I'm driving down the road, and I happen to look over at the screen, and I see I'm unmuted. And I'm thinking, holy crap, I wonder if they can hear me if I start talking. So I thought, well, I'll just be an adult about it, and I'll keep my mouth shut and not say anything. Well, I know what Desiree was saying. Okay, but it caught me off guard because I thought of it a different way. And she says, owner-operators can find any place to park. But company drivers, about the time I heard that, I go, no, they can't. And I said it really loud. And I thought, I wonder if they heard that or if I'm really muted, but it just looks like I'm not muted on the screen. Well, later on when I talked to Sean, he goes, oh, you're the one that said that. So, Desiree, if you happen to be listening to this program, I apologize. I did not mean to interrupt you while you were speaking.
And once again, you hear it first here at the TIBN.
Yeah, embarrassing enough. And of course, I had the microphone right to my mouth when I said it. But what she meant was independents and owner-operators have a little bit more flexibilities to choose where they may park, where company drivers do not. And I think that's what she was getting at. But, I thought of it as, they can do whatever they damn well please because they're owner-operators. Well, that's not entirely true because they're restricted to the same laws.
You do not know how bad it took me to hold my tongue today outside of Todd Spencer to say common horse sense will not beat data.
To say what?
Good old-fashioned common horse sense will not beat data.
Yes, there's a lot of...
the problem I had, and the only problem I had with Desiree's statement was, we can, as an owner-operator, I can fuel where I want, but, and there's always that but, I may not get the fuel discount that the company drivers would get. So if I go to a TA or Petro, chances are I'm going to get a decent fuel count. But I like to stop at Sap Brothers, especially in Cheyenne, and I'm not going to get that fuel discount tonight. But my truck does run better on Sap Brothers.
Thank you, Attila. That was his name. I definitely want to get his book. I really liked that man is intelligent. He articulates very well, and he had a lot of meaningful words. That everybody should listen to what he has to say. Dr. Belzer, professor at Michigan University, is what Attila said. That sounds right to me. I didn't get his first name, but it might have been Paul, but I'm not sure. But in regards to the drivers and stuff, that's something when I did have a chance to speak, I had to bring up is they kept referring to everybody as drivers. And the problem is they classify everybody in the trucking industry as drivers. And of course, Leland, I was thinking about you, the man in the empty seat there. I was thinking about you.
I have his phone.
Oh, okay. Hi, Lisa. How are you?
See, I told you that TikTok moment was coming, John.
Yeah. So, that TikTok moment. So anyway, the fact of the matter is everybody's getting classified as a truck driver. And we've heard Leland say it many, many times. There are owner-operators out there, and they are businessmen. They are not truck drivers. They are businessmen first who drive their trucks. And the issue with the law, hours of service rules, the issue with a lot of the regulations, they restrict these businessmen from being profitable within their businesses. And that isn't right. Any other industry, they have to, when they make a regulation, they have to assess it based on the Regulatory Flexibility Act and the Unfunded Mandate Reforms Act and determine whether it's going to negatively or adversely impact a business. And trucking, they're an exempt agency, so they can do whatever they damn well please, and they seem to shit all over the independents and the small carriers and the owner-operators. And that ain't right. That's not right. When a man invests $150,000 into a truck, another $50,000 into a trailer, plus his authority, his insurance, and everything he's all into it for, you're talking about almost $250,000 investment, and he's over here restricted to 60-hour work week? He can't have flexibilities. He can't make choices because, safety. And the issue is none of the regulations are working. And they haven't been working. They haven't been working for a long time. They don't do regulatory review. They need to start assessing the regulations. What's that, Sean?
And I think that's the statement you brought up today.
It is.
Was the regulatory system is broken. We were doomed to fail.
Exactly. That's the exact truth, and I've said that before. We have been set up for failure since deregulation. For 40 years, trucking's been upside down. you're capable of making your own good choices without the federal government interfering within your life, within your business. In fact, roads would be more safe. Right now, they're complaining that accident rates are up 12.5%. 12.5% since what, 2010? Since Ann Farrell made a mess of everything? And they can't seem to get it under control. And I pointed out to them that the ATA, Chris Spears, and Lamont Byrd himself, both during a Senate committee hearing recently, had told them they want to go back and address the hours of service rules. We just did that. Scott, you were involved in that, actually. I don't know if you want to jump in and elaborate a little bit on that.
About what part? How we got something figured out that was actually going to be beneficial, and then they stuck their long fingers on it, presented it in a way that was supposed to work, and then turned around and reneged on it?
Yeah. Kevin dropped off. So,
and since I've got my soda crate to stand on right now, let's get one thing straight about Todd Spencer. Todd Spencer has no spine. Todd Spencer does not stand up for drivers. In fact, in a meeting when Todd Spencer was asked about how we could help benefit the industry better, his response was, sell truck insurance. Well, wait a minute. Why sell truck insurance? So we can raise money. What's my membership go to? Oh, well, that just goes to keep the lights on around here. So anybody that's paying a membership to Al-Qaeda, as I refer to it as, just remember, your membership is going to paying salary and keeping lights on. Other than that, as far as going to fighting in D.C., your money's not going to that.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here just for a minute with you, Scotty. John, and all the time in the 2 days, if you had to put a time limit on it, how many minutes would you say Todd Spencer spoke today?
Through the course of both days, he spoke his fair share, I thought. My personal opinion on Todd, I don't have any issues with Todd as far as personal issues go, as a person or anything like that. But as a representative of the trucking industry for Owner Operator Independent Drivers Association, I'm a little concerned why it is a truck driver such as myself, and I'm not even an owner operator anymore. But I'm the one over here talking about the regulations. I'm the one over here talking about relieving drivers of these restrictions and get them the flexibility. I'm curious why it is the president of a trade organization who has a seat at the MCSAC isn't speaking up in these regards. I can't help but to feel that the man needs to speak up a little louder, a little bit more proud, and fight for what's right for the owner-operator.
He did speak.
Or,
He did. He talked about nutrition, and we didn't know what we were doing.
Yeah, that's messed up.
Why is it that Todd spends more time arguing about drivers' wages than he does safety issues?
Well, it is independent drivers. I mean, there is that aspect. I'll give him that part of it. It is owner-operator.
No, he's sitting there fighting over company driver wage and not even bringing up the safety issues. And by the way, Todd Spencer would not get involved on the hours of service either.
Well, and here's another thing I want to bring up, and it was brought up by Nikki Wilson today. Something that was supposed to have been done, and I don't know where it is. When you sign a rate con, you sign away your rights for transparency. She wants to know where that issue is. Not only that, and I'm sure I'll get a phone call later for this, right now she's sitting on 3 weeks, 3 different loads for 3 weeks total for detention time because nobody can make up their mind about when to pay her.
Detention time was brought up as an issue during the MCSAC meeting, and everything always leans towards electronics for some reason. And they're talking about how, well, you can use geofencing in your ELD device so that if you're at a particular shipper, you can target shippers to determine which ones are costing you the most time and how they're affecting your business and stuff like that. I am so sick and tired of the electronics shoved down my throat. I think the driver knows when he arrived, right? You know what time you got there. and you know what time you got out of there. That's about all you need to frickin' know. You can mark that down on a piece of paper and do the same exact thing. Why do you need expensive piece of electronics to tell you what you can just do, calculate on paper, like you used to do in the old days?
John, it's because they don't trust us.
It's because they push it. I'll tell you, they do push technology. It is listed as the modern day, it's the fourth industrial revolution. That's what they call it, and they want to push it because they're trying to build an economy off technology. But they're shoving it down our throats. They're destroying our economy with it, and they're ruining our lives, and they're causing more people to die.
I agree. But the bottom line, I mean, that's my opinion. I agree with you what you said. Uh-huh. But they also don't trust us. They don't want to believe us. You got to put it in hard proof. I don't agree with the fact that they want to use the electronics. You heard what I said earlier. Mm-hmm. Electronics, all the electronic shit that they're trying to push, I'm totally against all of it for many reasons. Safety being number one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Safety is number one.
Too much distraction in that truck now with all those electronics. And those crash mitigation devices is an issue. Okay? They're distracting. All that beeping and stuff going on in that truck all around you is distracting as shit. You know, I know where my lane lines are, and they actually made a statement a while back ago in that regard. I'm sorry, I kind of cut you off a little bit there, but just real quick, somebody made a statement a while back ago about how truck drivers don't know how to center their trucks in the lane, and that's why the right speaker's always going off in their ear. It's like, you dumbasses, we pull to the right on purpose. We hug that right lane, side of the lane on purpose because it creates a buffer space with other traffic. And with people being distracted out there and running out of their lanes, we like to have that little extra space. Thank you. We know what we're doing. But if you like to continue, Kevin.
I'm going to go back to what Kevin said for a minute because Scotty and I had this talk once. He's right in a sense they don't trust us. Scotty can tell you as well as I can. You got 4 people in the room. 3 of them agree. 1 disagrees. Now you have a disruption. All 4 of us can go in and have the same exact wording, the same exact thing, but because it's the same exact wording, they're going to disagree it disbelieve it because they think we all got together.
Well, that's kind of the idea, right? Get together, work it out, figure out what message you want to deliver. I'm sorry, Kevin,
I thought so too, but then they felt like you're ganging up on them. Just like, hey, Todd Spencer felt I was ganging up on Todd because I made the simple statement.
But that's what they do,
right? The reason the shelves are empty in the grocery stores is because people don't want to work because they're used to that free government money.
Well, no.
I have a question.
No, wait a minute. Let me correct you on that. Todd Spencer said that there is not a truck driver shortage, and the evidence is because the shelves are not empty at the grocery store. But, you know, the issue in that is not that the shelves are or not empty at the grocery store or the hardware store. These are big box stores, okay? These are corporate entities, and they're willing to pay a little bit extra to get their freight moved. But that little guy, that little business, can't get his product to market because he can't get a truck because there's not enough trucks out there available to him.
Then why did I go to Walmart the last time I was home? It took me over an hour to find my pair of boots to fit me because the shelves are practically bare. I had to go ask the girl to go look in the back, and she found what I needed.
Well,
I don't know.
The MCSAC is in total agreement. There's no driver shortage. I don't know.
No, there's no driver shortage. There's a driver retention problem.
Yeah. There is. Well, it's both. I mean, what's the difference, right? But anyways, Kevin and Scott, you had things you were trying to say. Why don't you go ahead and take the floor? Don't jump in all at once. Kevin, you wanna? Did you want to finish what you were saying earlier? Did you want to get back into about the technology and stuff? And I don't know. Can you hear me all right? Or did he froze? I think he froze up. Oh, there you are. I don't know. Oh, Lee is trying to get back in. Let me bring Lee in. I
hear you now, John.
All right. We got Bill wanting to come in. Let me I mean, we have some good discussion here. Let me, as soon as I find it, I got a lot of things on my screen here.
We lost Kevin.
We lost Kevin. We lost Scott. They're right here. Let's get them on in here.
Yeah,
We're moving around in
Kevin's
circles.
trying to come back to him.
All right. So,
I'm sitting in one spot. I'm in Beach, North Dakota, so take it from there.
all right. So earlier you were talking about electronics, and I kind of cut in on you, and I wanted to give you the opportunity to finish what it is you were saying. You had a good thought going on if you get back into that groove.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line of it is it's like I said in when I was talking to them guys on the call there. Okay, I understand the push for electronics. I do. I don't agree with it in trucks because, as they've said numerous times in when I was listening today, there's so many different things that vary within the industry, from sector to sector. It's hard to get one thing that fits all, no different than the HOS and stuff like that. So you look at it, my point was what works for this truck right over here, which it starts with an S and ends with an R, and this truck and that truck, doesn't work for other trucks. I haul livestock. You put the automatic braking system on my truck, you're going to end up in a shit show. You put it on a tanker, you're going to end up in a shit show, because you've got the surge.
Uh-huh.
If I got a load of cows on and that thing slams on the brakes, it ain't going to be good. For one, you got the surge that's going to send me even worse, and then you're going to have a bunch of dead animals. You take a fuel tanker, they've got baffles. You take a food-grade liquid tanker, they got no baffles.
Right, they smooth bore.
You know what happens to them.
Oh,
I mean, it doesn't work. And it's taking the control away from the driver, And I tried linking everything together when I was talking to him with retention, safety, training, everything. And if you look at it, in my opinion, it all can circle back to one thing, and that's training. You train the driver properly. You don't give them all that electronic shit to sit there in the cab and have to look over at it and worry about your time and everything else, or the beeping going off and things like that. Keep the distractions to a minimum, and they can concentrate on the road, and you might have less accidents. Now, that being said, one of our biggest things this day and age, it's been this way for quite a few years and it keeps getting worse, is these things right here that most all of us are on, except for John, a cell phone, a smartphone, and people use it going down the road, I mean, it happens, but that's a distraction. It's going to be hard to limit that, but if you can keep the other distractions to a minimum, and that's what I feel all of these things are doing, and I think it was that Danny, I think is his name, and then who was the guy that said he did the pilot program for a lot of this shit? I forget his name.
That was Jerry.
Was it Jerry?
I believe that
there you
was
go.
Jerry.
Okay, so
Jerry's the one that did it.
So as he said, he says, I forget how he worded it, but like Lee mentioned it, you get into different areas with different weather, and you can't control it. If the driver's not in control and all of a sudden that thing goes off, or you get dependent on them electronic devices that's on your truck, and you're not in control, what are you going to do? You're going to sit back and you're going to relax and you're going to become complacent. We can't have complacency when you're sitting behind the wheel of an 80,000-pound rig.
And the question
If these companies would train, what's that?
And the question I was going to ask, Kevin, we're all seasoned drivers. How is that device going to act on Interstate 90 going through Yosemite when they're not even allowed to use salt? That brings up the point that Jerry and you were bringing up right now.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's true though. I mean, think about it, guys. I mean, everybody on this video right now, and anybody listening or watching it, y'all can sit there and you can say, okay, this has happened to me at one point or time. Happens. You can't become complacent, and it starts. They were talking about pre-trip inspections, and they were, doing your pre-trip from the seat of your cab. That Sid was talking about, oh, you can do your pre-trip from your cab. No, you can't. You're depending on an electronic device. Yes, they have the systems. I get that. My truck is a 13. It'll test the lights and everything, and you can walk around and you can watch it. Do I use it? No. I physically flip the lights on. I walk around. You know what I'm saying? And so you become complacent. And you depend on electronics, and you're going to miss stuff. You can't do this shit. You can't do this job just by depending on electronics, because electronics fail. Look at how many of us have shitty service.
In short, what you're really saying is trucking is a discipline. And you've got to remain in the discipline of trucking. You've got to do your pre-trips. You've got to do your en-route inspections and your post-trips. You've got to do the discipline that is trucking. And when you interject electronics into it, what you do is you create that complacency that you're talking about, that you're concerned about. Also, I think what Sid or Singh was saying, he's new to the MCSAC. I thought what he was saying was they were asking, because the ELD, what it does is it tracks your driving, right? But they rely on you to punch buttons for any other work activities that you're doing. So how do you know that they're actually doing the pre-trip inspection? There's no way to determine it unless you get to put cameras on the truck. And that might be what they're alluding to for future reference. I don't know. I'm just kind of speculating there. But the point is, you can sit in your seat. You can be out smoking a cigarette, gabbing to somebody while that 15 minutes is ticking away. And I've seen people do it, actually. But there's nothing to determine that you're actually doing the pre-trip that you're required to do. But you're right. You should remain with the safety aspects of driving, which requires the discipline of driving. And there's reasons. They were failed. People had experiences. They had adverse experiences in the past. This is why you have post-trip inspections. That way, you got a flat tire today. You're getting it taken care of tonight, not waking up 2 in the morning when you're ready to drive. There's a reason why you do it. But Bill's been on the hold for a while, so let me bring Bill in. Oh no, never mind. He just fell off. I
got a question real quick. I wanted to ask before I got kicked out of here. On that driver committee, wasn't one of the requirements to be in the driver committee was that you had to be a current driver?
Yes.
So, is there exceptions for the chairman?
No. Okay.
No.
Yes, there is. Hang on, I'll explain it. So the way the chairman works is, in order to have the subcommittee, you have to have somebody chair the subcommittee that's in the parent committee. So there is no truck driver in the parent committee. So when I was talking to Wiley about it, I said, well, there are two people that you have for candidates that are in the parent committee. One of them being Todd Spencer, and the other one being Dan Schnaub from Clark Transport. Both of those are CDL holders. So if you're going to at least pick somebody, and that way we don't get stuck with somebody like, say, Steve Owens or somebody from, what's the other ones there? The safety advocacy organizations that we all love so much. So anyway.
Well, Todd Spencer's only drove a truck one time in the last, 35 years.
No. He drove from Grain Valley back to the Petro in Oak Grove and then back to Grain Valley. Recent.
Oh, so he test drove.
Yeah, that was a couple years. That was a couple years ago. He did it.
That was a few years ago.
Yeah, it was for a showing. But look, guys, there's nothing
He
we
test
could
drove
do.
automatic. That's right. Yeah.
There's nothing. Actually, I think it was a stick. But there's nothing we can do about that circumstance because they have to come from the parent committee, and there are no truck drivers in the parent committee. At least not when they were putting it together. I'm trying to think because this new gentleman, Singh, I believe, Singh, I can't remember his last name, Manadden or something. I don't recall exactly, but he owns a trucking company of 30 trucks, and I believe he is a driver. I'm not sure he's driving anymore, but he has been a driver.
But he was pushing for new technology, too.
He may have been, but everybody, the problem is when you work in a group. I'm
going to tell you, gentlemen, something that I was told from one of our company drivers. I'm going to ask him what state he was in again when he saw this. And I think this is part of what they're getting ready to do when they did all the updates down in Florida. They pulled him into the scale house, pulled him around to the secondary. He asked another driver, "Why are you here?" They indicated, detected, he had a low tire pressure.
Okay, so what you're saying is them sensors now in Florida are reading tire pressure?
I think when they're getting ready to do all that updating, I think that's exactly what they're going for.
Well, here's a question that was brought to me the other day. You get pulled into a scale, and you're going to voluntarily give up your constitutional right to go in there under the guise of commerce, which is BS. They tell you they're going to inspect you. Okay, have at it. If I was in a personal vehicle, they can't inspect you without a warrant. They got to have probable cause. Now, under the guise of the Commerce Clause, they feel they can break every constitutional law there is. But let's just say I'm a company driver. It's not my truck. Why do they get to inspect it? Maybe the owner of this truck doesn't want it inspected. You know, has anybody pushed that issue? Apparently not. Or why don't we just get out of the truck, lock the door, and walk away? Go ahead and inspect. There is nothing in the Green Book that says I have to partake in inspecting with you. Nothing. You know,
no, but I did hear of a
it's time
driver
we start
doing
rebelling.
that in Kentucky. I did hear of a driver doing that in Kentucky, and he got basically what was called a smart-ass ticket, where he refused to participate. Now, I don't know how much farther it went because I saw the ticket, but I never did get to talk to him again to see how far that went.
Okay, he got a ticket. Did he get an actual ticket with a court date?
I believe he did.
Okay, that's good. Then he can go to court.
But I wished I would have kept in touch with him. Of course, this was way back when, but I wished I could have kept in touch with him because I would like to know the outcome of that. Because if what you're saying is true, Leland, then that's what we all need to start doing.
Yeah, because I'm taking away from your show, John, but I have this little
you're
book right
good.
here.
Good, keep
It's
going.
called CBSA.
I don't understand anything
I
that
haven't
Sean's
read.
saying, just so you know.
Okay, I have not read this whole book yet, but I'm planning to. This is their book that they decide to put you out of service for. So I'm going to start using this book against them and see where it says I have to partake in anything. And the other side note is, nowhere in the Green Book does it say CBSA has the authority to do everything they do. Where do they get their authority from? Who derived them to have their authority? It's just a group of people that come together and said, we're going to uphold these rules and regulations. We don't answer to anybody, and we're going to make it up as we go. I'm done being nice. We tried the nice routine.
I agree. Being nice didn't get me very far. Got me kicked off the. I don't know. Maybe they don't think I'm very nice doing the comment. That's all I can think of. Is it's the Common Sense Conservative show. We get pretty edgy out there, and we talk politics, and they didn't like it. But you know what that shows. You know what that shows is you got a bunch of left leaning people who can't handle diversity, so they remove me.
Right.
From it.
John, how
Exactly.
dare you piss off the snowflake? How dare you piss off the snowflake, John?
I'm telling you, deputy director just didn't want me there, or deputy administrator. She's not gonna have no part of that. I'm not gonna talk shit about her boss. Damn it.
I missed stuff because I had to get
Don't even
fuel
get
and
me
everything
started.
else. But you did discuss what you brought up earlier
About
that
me-
happened with you.
Yeah, I'm no longer on the driver panel.
No, what you got to say about why driver retention is bad?
Yeah, we did discuss some on that.
Okay. All right. my own opinion, I'm waiting for you to get your letter to see if you figure out why, and then after that, I guess we just go balls to the wall and start rebelling on everything. Everybody that's listening, start posting, start getting these people.
And then Daniel's asking me why were you booted off the board? We don't know. They won't tell us. And because they were having the MCSAC meeting, I've tried to call my contact at the FMCA. She handles these sorts of things, and she's in the MCSAC meeting, so I can't get a hold of her.
Well, I don't know. Kevin came right out and asked. They blew him off.
Yeah, he did. He asked why the person who created the driver panel was booted off the driver panel, and all they could tell him was, we don't know. You'll have to contact the FMCSA directly and ask them. But that person that should know was sitting right there all the time.
There wasn't a Mexican Chinese woman there?
You could call her Mexican Chinese, I suppose, if you want to go by her ethnic descent.
Yoshi?
They said she's part Mexican and Indian, I think. I don't know why they feel the need to tell us that. We're not supposed to be racist, Leland. Why are they telling us that she's part Mexican and Indian? Who gives a shit what race she is? Who cares? Did you ever care what race the administrator of the FMCSA is? Did you look at him and go, oh, that's a woman? Or she looks kind of Indian to me. I'm not sure. Who cares? That's supposed to be the whole point with the left. Who gives a shit?
So if we're diverse and we're all going left, maybe every driver should start identifying as a car. Every truck driver should just start identifying as driving a car and piss on the scales, piss on the ELD. I identify as a car driver. I'm on vacation with my family.
Exactly. I think so too. I identify as rich. I'm just having a hard time expressing that.
Oh, yeah.
That's the wrong thing to say, John Grosvenor.
I'm having conflicts with that. I think the government shall me up, but then that would make me a leftist, but I identify as a conservative. So I'm having a difficult time here. I'm conflicted.
You already know you have a woman in that
the regulation of I don't care.
You already know you have a woman in that house that keeps looking for your billfold. She ain't found it yet.
Oh, God. Dude, you scared the hell out of me. I thought I left it laying somewhere. It's right here in my pocket where I hide it.
You shouldn't have said
I don't
that, John.
keep anything in it. I don't keep anything in. I don't know why it's important. Just the plastic stuff. That's it.
I know your wife. I'm going to shut my mouth.
Hey. I'll put it to you like this. I went and hit her broom. She's not flying anywhere. That woman is grounded.
Why did you hide her broom?
If anybody's questioning that, we're talking about TJ from the Witch's Brew.
Why did you hide Tracy's broom?
If you want to come in on the phone call, just hit the *6 so I know that you want to come in, please.
Okay, he's not answering that question. This is a good one.
She ain't going nowhere. She's got to share the show and stuff and do things.
Did you hide one broom or both of them?
Well, I hid the broom. Well, we got several, but I hid them. But, she could pull out the central vac. You know what a central vac is, right? With a little sweeper thing and the hose, the long hose. Yeah, she'd be flying around with a tail.
The best thing that we can do is educate ourselves to be smarter than the DOT out here and just rebel. Just like Lee said, just rebel.
Yeah.
Well,
Maybe
you can, but in what regard? Okay, so if I decide that I got an ELD compliant truck and I decide that, because I've done this before where I've left trucking. I just said, you know what, enough's enough. I've had enough. I'm not going to do the ELD. Everybody's pushing it on me. I'm out of here, guys. And I took off for a year. But I was alone. It didn't make a difference to the industry. It didn't make a hill of beans to the industry. It was just I was sick and tired of dealing with it. One guy says, I'm not going to use my ELD compliant truck, so he's going to get a ticket. So how would we?
Well, I'm finding more and more that these DOT officers do not exactly know what the guidance is. They don't even know what the reg says sometimes. They don't even know the difference between a heat fracture and an actual crack in a brake lining. And yet they're going to put somebody out of service for it, and it doesn't even meet a measurement requirement. That's where we need to educate ourselves and not be pushed around. Like Lee said, nothing says we have to help them do the brake test. They want to pump the brakes down? Hey, buddy, have at it. I don't have to do it.
No, that's one way of doing it.
And when we do get wronged, we need to report it.
Well, the fact of the matter
I
is,
think that
if we don't report it,
here's my issue. We're required to follow a law, and you step out of bounds and you don't do what you're supposed to do. They're putting you out of service. They're funding you to the hilt. They're treating you like a true criminal. But here's the FMCSA that don't follow the very laws they're supposed to follow, sort of like the Sunshine Act. We'll go ahead and get into this, Lee. The Sunshine Act, or known as the Open Meetings Act, it requires all federal agencies to have open meetings. Whenever they have a meeting, they have to have open meetings with certain exemptions. If it's a matter of national security, it's going to put an officer at risk. It's going to expose somebody to a loss of privacy during the course of the meeting, things like that. Or if they're censuring a fellow member, then they don't have to have open meetings. There's like 10 to 12 exemptions. The FMCSA doesn't fall under any of these. So the MCSAC has to be an open meeting, correct? That's
Correct.
why we just saw it for 2 days.
Correct.
Where's the announcement for the driver panel meeting that's happening next
There's not.
week? There's no announcement in the Federal Register. We've checked. There's no public notice. There's no public participation. And by law, we have to be able to observe the meeting. They have to allow the public to observe the meeting. But they made no notice. They made no attempt to make it a public meeting that we're aware of. And they're supposed to do this within a week before the meeting. So they're already in violation of the law. Where's their fines?
Nobody's going to fine them or stop them because you don't have more than 100 drivers in this whole entire country that's willing to go kick somebody in the dick.
Yeah, he went there.
That's the problem. We're our own worst enemy. There are people out there that are drivers. They're not truckers. They're drivers. They're steering wheel holders. They keep the seats nice and warm, and they move freight down the road. And they do as they're told because they don't know no better because they're stupid. They come out here and they're like, oh, well, I'm going to make a job sitting on my butt driving down the road. You don't have truckers. Truckers would have actually went to D.C. and they would have done things. Didn't we not learn anything from the farmers?
Wait a minute. Let's give some truckers some credit because last year they put their heart and soul into the May Day event.
How
stayed there
many people were there?
Huh? Oh, how many people?
How many people were there?
I would say 500. I would say there was 500.
There's 6.5 million CDL holders in this country, and you got 500 to band together?
3.5 million. But sorry. But yeah.
I mean, we might as well be talking about COVID numbers here. Oh, there's so many cases, but only like 0.077% are actually infected in your state.
Now, in all fairness, bring this part up to say this: there is a lot of people. As much as Facebook is out, as much as drivers talk, there was still not enough of what was going on for one of two reasons. Either the drivers didn't want to be involved because they didn't want to piss somebody off, or they just plain weren't knowledgeable of what was going on. There's your two reasons. It's one or the other.
Part of the problem with May of last year when they had May Day going on, there was so many people that were hurting, they could not afford to sit there. On the other hand, you can't afford not to stand up for what's right anymore. So it's a double-edged sword. And now that people are making money, nobody's going to complain. Nobody cares. Everybody figures out how to do it
What
once
about
they're
the
making
meeting
money.
that was supposed to happen with Mark Meadows?
Okay, hang on, guys. We got a couple
We get a
guys.
golden opportunity handed to us, and then we don't take advantage of it.
I do not know.
All right, hang on. Let's get a varying opinion, okay? This gentleman here has put a lot of heart and soul and effort into the cause, and he uses a different approach. He doesn't like to use the roughneck trucking approach. He's always done everything with respect and dignity, and I think he deserves to have a voice here as much as anybody. So let me go ahead and open up his microphone, Mr. William McKelvey. Oh, hang on.
Hi, John. How are you?
You got it. I'm good, Bill. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Hello to everyone else, too. Glad to see you all together and talking and discussing things. There have been some discussions throughout this week with Leland and Kevin and Mike, myself, Taylor also. The one point that I've brought up is that it seems that there's a lot of people complaining about things, but nobody really has a plan of action. No plan of action as in togetherness, working together, putting a plan together, a strategy, any structure or anything else like that. And to be very honest and not mean, that seems to be the failing point of every protest / demonstration / showing that's gone on up in the DC area. It seems that there are so many differing variables and varieties of people and ideas. I put up a post the other day in one group that Lisa asked me to go in, and they immediately took my post down. It wasn't a bad post. It wasn't offensive. It was very correct in nature and in form, and they just took it down. And then I looked at the rest of the group, and I just removed myself. I don't want to be any part of the problem that we have as an industry, and that is attacking each other. And Scott, I know Scott has talked about this a lot, the way people attacked him. And I know other people have discussed that as well. And, you know, it's counteractive to what we're trying to do. It honestly is. We're trying to make things better, not only for ourselves, but for others as well. Our pay scale as company drivers as an industry is absolutely horrible and pathetic. What the brokers are doing to us now is it's irreprehensible. I mean, it's just horrible. From what I'm reading and hearing, they're telling people that the market is down, and people are believing it. But the people who are spending hours making videos on TikTok, making videos on YouTube, there's a new young guy starting out a show on YouTube, and one of the guys says, well, we want you to represent us in DC. And the kid said, you know, I think he said something like he appreciated the offer, but I mean, I don't know the kid. I've never seen him before, but he's not looking for any powerhouse to back him up. He doesn't have anything to back him at all, except, you know, so I sent a message. I said, if you're, you know, really interested, then reach out and we'll bring you in to the central core group that we have, including all of us. And I haven't heard a word from him. So is he another person that's just trying to stand out and do something on their own? And you know, what is his goal? What is he really after to accomplish here? But you know, like where I was really going with this is just we don't have a strategy. We don't have a plan. We all complain about things, but the worst thing that the industry does is it complains about itself. There was a guy the other day that made a TikTok video saying he was going to kick people's asses if he saw them dropping trash in the parking lot. What is the big deal? Go pick up the trash, go put it in the trash bin. If somebody leaves it because it's dark at night and there's no trash bin around, then and you see it, then go get it. If you're that angry about someone dropping trash, well, maybe you shouldn't be out here with the rest of us. I mean, what happened to where we were all trying to help each other out? I mean, the other point that I have is, do we really, and I said this to Leland the other day, so I'm tired. I hope I get it right. And I said to Mike today, what were we really expecting for a group of people and to be as part of a panel of drivers within the government itself to correct the problems that the government has created for the trucking industry? I mean, what are we honestly thinking about when we think that that's going to work? And nothing against Todd as the chair, because I think out of anyone to chair this panel, someone of his caliber at least should be doing this job. But is it not prejudiced against other people or drivers or anyone else to not have someone that is completely someone like Martinez, who would not have any side to take whatsoever, or would not have any other organization? And when I was speaking with Mike today, he stated that the FMCSA said you couldn't be with an organization if you were part of this panel. Yet there are people on the panel that are part of trucking organizations or associations. So I'm just really wondering, what were we really thinking that this panel of people would actually improve things and make things better without some kind of prejudice or whatever starting out already before the group even started? I mean, I understand that you're through the grapevine that you're not on it anymore, and I think that's a crying shame, because you're the one who put this together, who took the time and the effort to forward this and make it happen. And they kick you out of it. That just screams volumes that they really don't want to hear what we have to say. And I asked Leland the other day on the phone, and I asked Mike today, where are our meetings? Have our meetings actually stopped because they have a panel and they think that panel will speak for us? We've had absolutely no meetings since Martinez left office. We've had nothing.
Honestly,
the new guy took over. There were no meetings. The new lady is in charge. There's no meetings. I just don't understand. We had a good relationship, well, a better relationship. No, let me say that one more time. We had the best relationship that we've had with the FMCSA during the last administration. Mm-hmm. So now, does this all stop because there are a certain number of people on the panel and they're going to speak for all of us? That's absolutely crazy. There's absolutely no way that limited number of people on that panel can speak for every single driver and solve every single thing out here. But, you know, the topics that should be discussed are not that complicated. To solve these problems that we have in the industry, it's not that hard. It's just they're not doing it, and they're not addressing the things that need to be addressed. And the problem that we have is we present things that are wrong, but at the same time, we don't have strong, solid solutions. We have a lot of complaining, but there's no solution to it. And that's what, you know, when I went in 2018, that's what Kathy Goudreau came up and asked. They want solutions. They don't just want to hear about things.
Hang on
and
a
I'll
second.
have to
Hang on, Bill.
Earlier.
You
Okay.
got a lot of good points, Bill, but we gotta have some time to interject on them a little bit. Now, one of the things.
Okay, go ahead.
First thing, I was curious, did you by chance get to see the MCSAC meeting? No judgment here. If you didn't, that's fine. It's no big deal. You know, it happens. But I just wonder if you.
No, I was driving, so the answer to that question is no. I did not.
All right. So it's kind of interesting to me watching the MCSAC meeting, because I'm watching these people, and they're advisors. Okay, they're not the FMCSA themselves. They're advisors to the FMCSA. But listening to much of what they were saying, what I kept hearing was things that they cannot regulate into existence, like drivers' health and the food they're serving at truck stops. Why are we wasting our time talking about such things? There's no regulation to mitigate this. It's up to the driver to eat healthy if the driver chooses to eat healthy. You know, like you guys do in your trucks. When I was over the road, I had a microwave, I had a coffee pot, I had a cooler, I got food items from the grocery store. I put healthy items together for myself to eat, but you know, not to go on about that too much, but the point is, these aren't things that can be regulated. These are personal responsibility things.
I'm sorry, I hate to laugh. It's just, I'm astonished by it. I would have been laughing. I probably would have shut it off in about 5, maybe not even 5 minutes, John. And I'm glad I didn't watch it now. That's absolutely ridiculous that they're trying to impose. It's like Michelle Obama tried to impose her diet and on all the school children.
Exactly.
And after a little while, all the kids were throwing their food in the garbage.
Now, who was it that wanted to bring it up? It was Kevin. He's not here any longer. And he wanted to bring up the fact that the driver committee or the driver panel, its subject matter is what? Supply chain demands and driver retention. What the hell does that have to do with safety? What does that have to do with anything but serving for corporate interest?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing, John. You're 100% correct. We have two problems. We have driver retention and people who just don't want to drive. You know, the one thing that I'm reading a lot lately, I don't know if you've seen this or not, it's gone around the internet, and I think Leland and I talked about it yesterday, the message that drivers are not coming back after their 34-hour restart, and it's a privilege for you to have a 34 restart. And my response is pretty blunt, normal, like I am. Did you actually read the job description before you signed the dotted line? What in God's name were you doing during orientation? Were you just sitting there watching TikTok videos? I mean, right there, it tells you there's no guarantee. This is what these people are thinking, that there's a guarantee that they're going to get home time when they request it. There is no such guarantee expressed in any paperwork of these large companies at all. Mm-hmm. Nowhere. So
the one thing that was brought up in the meeting, Bill, is at one point they were talking to all the people in the driver committee, if I'm understanding this right, John. All the people this morning were of the driver committee, basically, that was having a roundtable discussion. And at the end, right before you interjected your comment, at the end of that, one of the guys says, well, can't we all come to an agreement on something here? You know, right now everybody's coming up with a different idea on what's wrong with the industry, but can't we all agree on one set thing? And whoever was in charge said no. He said, what I can tell you is that there is a lot of issues, and we can all agree that we can't agree on what the fix is. That was the best thing I heard that anybody said today, from them guys.
That statement was made before John came on.
I thought that was afterward, but yeah, it doesn't matter when. But it did come up that way, that there was a little disgruntlement going on, and he did say exactly that. That would be Lamont Bird, he has a position with the International Brotherhood of Teamsters.
That was the best thing that was said out of everybody, other than Kevin and you. You know, he was point blank. There's not a one size fits all, but if they fail to follow that lead where he said there's not a one size fits all, we have a lot of problems. Okay, why are you trying to solve all the problems with one answer? One answer is not the fix it for all of them. You know, at no time did anybody say, hey, this is all a diverse industry. We can't regulate it with one issue. One thing is going to fix it all. But that's the way they keep looking at it.
Well,
to get back to your other point, Bill, and then I'll be done. Just 1 second.
Okay.
The reason there's not a lot of us having meetings anymore out in public or a big front is because a lot of us are getting tired of getting told it'll never work. So a lot of us are doing things behind the scenes. You, me, John, Sean. Everybody does stuff behind until we get something to where it's like, okay, we have an answer. We've got this. Now let's get help to push it.
There's something Bill brought up, though, John. I'd like to iterate on real quick. Is when you and I went to Senator Braun and proposed this idea. The idea was to have drivers like Cleveland, Scotty, and maybe whoever be an actual driver board to set what was going to be happening. The senator agreed with that. However, when you got somebody in office that hands the key, a golden key, Chris Spears, there's where your problem lies. I will also tell you, Lee was personally asked to be on that driver board. I'll give you one guess, and I'm not for sure about this, but I would bet on this, who said no. And that answer comes out of Grand Valley.
So I think a lot of people don't like Spencer.
That board was tailor-made for Leland Schmidt. Tailor-made. Tailor-fucking-made.
Leland
in
brings
Green
quality,
Valley-
and I don't know why
Somebody
they feel the need to
in
overlook him.
Green Valley got butthurt because Leland told them the truth.
The thing about it is when they overlook somebody who shows such passion, commitment, and dedication to this, without it, Leland never asked for anything in return, ever. Never asked for a dime, never asked for anything in return. He put himself out there, 100%, genuine. We do have another caller. I don't want to ignore him for too long because he'll fall off on us and he won't get a chance to talk. So let me bring in one more person. Dan Coors.
Good evening.
Good evening, Dan. How are you?
No, doing all right. Sitting here trying to keep the kids from getting ran over on the road.
Uh-huh.
It's
Been sitting at home
quarter
now
after nine.
for over 3 weeks.
Yeah, time's been flying by on this one. Once we got warmed up and going.
Yeah.
So what's on your mind, Dan? You got something particular on your mind, or do you just want to kind of join the conversation?
Well, I don't know. I mean, we have talked ourselves to death. We have protested ourselves to death. We have slow-rolled ourselves like crazy. We've gone to state capitals. We've talked to congressmen. We've talked to senators. And one of the things, and I said this a while back, I said, one of the biggest things we have a problem with is we don't have money. And this, to me, anything that ever gets done in Washington takes either a dead child from a crying mother or a lot of money. We don't have any dead children. We've got dead drivers that we're fighting for, but unless their widows and children show up, it's not going to help us any on most things. Money, we can't afford to come up with the money that they want us to come up with. I mean, shoot, stop and look how much money we can get put into St. Christopher's Fund or some of these other organizations to help drivers. It's pulling tooth and nail to get big money in there. The problem is why does our government have to be a pay to play? We voted them in there. We pay our taxes. We help pay their salaries. Why don't they want to ever listen to what we have to say? And then they always come back with that big freaking thing, data. Okay? We can pick their data apart and give them their same data back to them in a different way as some other expert gives it to them. Why do they not believe the numbers that we show them, but they believe the numbers that the other person show them when it comes out of the same stinking numbers? I know why, because them other people are putting big chunks of cash in there. And I'm sick and tired of dicking around with this pay-to-play game. There's got to be some way to get them without a pay-to-play. And we have to figure that out. And the other thing, too, is Bill was saying, or William was saying, we don't get anything done as a group. We talk about stuff, we whine and bitch about it to each other, but we never put a plan together. The problem is I believe there's been many plans that have been close to being put together. But people, we're owner-operators, we're independent people, we're not willing, some of us are not willing to be part of something that's not 75% in their belief on how to do it. And that causes a great divide amongst us. And we have to get rid of that. We have to get rid of that opinion. Well, I ain't going to do that because that's not what I want to do, and I don't agree with them on that, and I'm just out. Well, if everybody has that opinion and pulls out, we're never going to get the things figured out. We have to come together as a whole, and if your opinion is listened to and understood, but the big grand scheme of things, it's not the opinion of the whole group, don't jump ship and run away. Stay there so we have numbers and we have experience and we have knowledge and know-how and expertise from everybody coming together to work together and figure out who is going to be those 2 or 3 or 4 people that are going to sit back and do the talking for us, the ones that are eloquent enough to do it, and everybody else sit there and work behind the scenes with them, but don't try to go around them because then it just floods everything and jacks everything up.
I think,
in my opinion.
I really.
May I interject?
Can I add to this? We were talking about this with Leland and Michael earlier today and yesterday, and I agree with you 100% on that. Part of the problem that I'm going to elaborate on and add to your point is people make this a competition. It should never, ever be a competition. One of the trucking trade groups is always fighting the others, and just recently got in a pretty big fight with one of the others, and I completely removed myself from it, and they still just don't get it. It's not one group that's going to win it. We should all be in this together to make things better. And if folks start trying to compete against each other, that's the folks you need to step away from. Now, I'm not trying to be rude or mean. I'm just being honest. I've seen too much destruction of people trying to, like what you said, not what you say, but what I say is get on top of the other person, be better than the other person, or try to take over and seem like the supreme being, for example. And it's just, that never works. That doesn't produce anything, and it's counteractive to what we're all trying to do. And to be honest, there's really not that many of us that have, I'm looking at the screen right now, I can't get on, but I see 4 guys that I've had discussions with that all of us have had arguments. Every single one of us have had arguments to one degree or another, disagreements, and yet here we are on the phone having decent, intelligent, driven conversation. So how do we get the rest of the guys that are saying that they're going to work with us and help us improve things to that point? That's where we need to try to, in my honest opinion, drive the industry towards and get away from this, I hate to say it, but Neanderthal attitude. And we have to decide as an industry, are we going to keep this sweatshop on wheels attitude? I mean, that seems to be so prominent right now. It's just, why are we, and to quote JoJo, he said this a lot, you don't know your value, know your worth. We are devaluing ourselves every time that we work beyond the hours that are set by the government for us, whether it's under an exemption or whether it's because we have to, do this or that to satisfy the customer. We are devaluing our services. And to go even further, and then I'll drop this, when we allow the brokers to tell us that the market is dropping, but you're on YouTube, you're on TikTok, you're on Facebook, you're on Instagram, but you don't take the time to go to the dashboard, which is a public website, and read the very first page that tells you exactly what the market is doing. We have to do a better job, people. We have to do a better job. Or just close the doors and go back to driving and just forget it.
Well, there's another elephant in the room that needs to be addressed as well. And I'm just going to use 2017 as an example because that's what I'm most familiar with. ELDRME started. There was a plan. Somebody within ELDRME was upset because they weren't the one in charge, so they went and started Black and Blue. Now, we already had one thing against us. Two, when we went to D.C., and I know I did a video before we got there that said, look, when we get there, it doesn't matter which camp you're with, we're all truckers, and we need to stand together as truckers. But no, we had ELD and me on one side of the street, with black and blue on the other side of the street. And then there was a bunch of commotion about
Oh, Scotty, we lost you, bud. Sorry.
dollars spent on printing, and some of that stuff was actually given to us by Congressman Babin's office. They put it to help us stuff out. Now, people did. Some did it willingly. Some of them we had to beg. But other than that, people did not want to go out. I mean, they were there, but they didn't want to get involved in actually doing anything. They just wanted to sit on the side of the road and blow on their horns. But yet, when something got mentioned about taking a truck or two to the White House, oh my, everybody and their brother was fighting and arguing about whose truck ought to be going up there. How much effort could we have gotten just in that one time period if people were as energized about going door to door to the congressmen and senators' offices? And I'm not saying that was a solution, but what I am saying is there have been plans that have been made, but if people don't get on board and support them, then it's doomed to fail. So even the people that aren't getting involved, they need to do more than just show up.
That's Sparky Anderson. Said Scott Jordan said that broke armies don't get feed. I think he meant fed. That's why I'm kind of laughing here. But that's a quote I really hate. I really hated that quote. I never did like that quote. Our Revolutionary War was fought with broke armies. Those men struggled through winters without boots. Those men struggled without food. And they won. You know why they won? Because they had heart and soul in it. They had to win. They couldn't afford to lose. Their necks were facing the noose. They fought like hell to win. And that's the problem in trucking, guys, is we don't fight like hell. We fight just for what we can get out of it, you know? Every time the going gets tough, everybody wants to just go back to trucking and forget about it. When people don't get their way, they want to go back to trucking and forget about it. You know, I remember when Scott Jordan got mad because he wasn't getting his way, and he said, well, I'll take my men from the ICG and we'll just leave. Go. Because that's what you want to do anyway, you know?
Well, it's just like, case in point. Here's a prime case in point. Let's go look at world politics right now. Let's look at Cuba. Everybody's like, we need to send this and this and this to Cuba. No, don't send anything to Cuba. You feed the Cuban people, you give them medication, they'll stop their fight for their freedom, and they'll go back to being complacent again. You gotta let them starve and fight to win so they can get their freedom. It's the only way they're going to get it. Sorry.
Nobody's going to feed you, Greg. You're right.
If we were handing out $1,000 check to every person that showed up in D.C. for a protest, my gosh, we'd have half the country there.
Yeah, it'd all been there. You'd have had all the leftists that were opposing you there.
Yeah,
but if you ask somebody to do something because it's the right thing to do, they don't care.
I got to make money.
Yeah, but if I can elaborate on your point, Scott, you are 100% correct. If you paid people, and that's how when Alex Jones and Belinda B. were behind one of the earlier protests, they paid people quite a bit of money. And as you know, they had quite a bit of money and backing behind them. But here's the thing, and this is something I've been trying to get across to people for a long time. If we worked for the rates that are there right now, and everybody is saying that a lot of the rates have been really, really good, but if you look at it and you go back decades, and you've been in the business long enough, I think all of us have, we know what the rates were 5, 10 years ago. And what these rates are today are honestly nothing to brag about. The problem is the industry I was reading something the other day. I don't know if it's 100% correct or not, but you had a publication that came out that said the average driver spends 3 to 5 years in the trucking industry and then they're gone. 3 if they're lucky. 5 is a stretch.
Dude,
so we keep turning over people that don't know about rates. They don't know about the history and how things used to pay many, many years ago, or even just a few years ago. So here's the point. If we were actually earning the monies we should be making, there would be no problem with a lot of people taking off and standing together and helping each other out. But right now, everybody is fighting to get the loads to pay decently, and the brokers are trying to control the market. And you know what that is? That's called price fixing. But nobody is talking about price fixing that some of these brokers are doing. But if you look at what happened with the ingredients industry, the poultry feed, the dog feed, and the cattle feed, all of these major producers have been sued for price fixing. So why aren't we doing something like that?
And the point where he brings up a good point is right now, John, Pilgrims, which is one of our main products, just went through a big shakeup up at St. Cloud, and all the people that were in charge are no longer in charge because of Pilgrim's price fixing, and the CEO that got in trouble for that last year.
One thing I can say.
There's a point that you can bring in McKelvey's favor.
One thing that I can add about 2017 is that we may not have had this. I mean, we had a decent crowd in D.C., I think, for what it was. I mean, do we hope it would have been better? Yes. But at the same time, we know, especially through social media, that there was a lot of people across the country that were shutting down at home. I mean, people were posting pictures of putting their trucks in the front yard of their house with signs up around them. One thing that I'll never forget, though, is and to add to what McKelvey's saying, we know that week there were some brokers that was getting kind of nervous because they were calling guys like, hey, we need some freight moved, and in a lot of circumstances, it was pretty much name your price. How many people shut down at home? I don't know. But what I do know is there was enough truckers that shut down at home, and besides what was at D.C., and I'm going to say more shut down at home than it was at D.C., that it actually made a wave. Was it a big wave? No. Was it anything that caught and took off? No. But it made a wave. Here nor there. We can't argue and take that away.
It was enough to create attention.
We can discuss what's going on in the past till we're blue in the face. Like I was talking with Mike in Leland. I talked with Mike today for a long time. And, you know, we could talk hours and hours on what we've done in the past, Scott. And we all can agree that it basically laid the grounds for further actions. And that's how we started to get the hours of service changed. Unfortunately, the focus changed from fighting against the ELD towards the hours of service because people thought they could not win against the ELD. At least we got some, movement on the hours of service, which really aren't correct yet, as to the ways that the structure is set for the actual hours, and that's a whole nother subject. But the point now is, gentlemen, is to move forward. What are we going to do from this point on? I think we need to move on, and we've all talked about things that have happened in the past during this broadcast and other conversations amongst each other. But the question becomes now is, how do we move forward? What's going to be our next step? What is our goal? What is the first goal, and then what is the big goal? Because we have to get one goal.
I was trying to reiterate what you were saying, Bill. I was trying to bring up the fact that how can we move forward if we don't understand what our past is, because we keep having these movements and it's just like a hamster wheel that just keeps spinning and trying the same thing over and over and over. What we need to do is we need to sit down and we need to analyze everything and figure out, okay, what worked here, what actually showed momentum here, and try to push that forward. Now, as far as the ELD, yeah, I jumped on the hours of service wagon, but I also said the whole entire time, if we don't stop the ELD, it is going to bring hours of service to the forefront as a problem, which it did do. Unfortunately, the problem that we keep running into is that no matter how good someone's intentions are of trying to do something good, we have more people more apt to attack them than join them or support them. And I don't know that it's making a plan. I think we can sit and the 5 or 6 of us can draw out this elaborate plan that would absolutely work full bore. But if we can't stir the troops, so to speak, or we can't get people to support it, then we're doomed.
One of the issues
I don't think so.
that we've had...
I'll disagree with that. I think if we start with a small group, because that's how the hours of service got changed. You know, the Teamsters, if you're speaking of the past, you know, and I just said we shouldn't, so I have to correct myself and apologize for that. But the Teamsters are the ones who got the half-hour break put in, you know, and I went up and I said, why does it have to be a full half hour? Shouldn't this be up to us? You know, how we split it up, 2:15s, that should be good enough. But the government said no. So I think if we come up with a plan, Scott, and we all stick to it, this is what the ATA does. And a lot of people didn't understand this when I first brought this point up, and they attacked me. I know they did. What I said was we had to study how the ATA is successful in their movements and how they get things done. I was talking with Leland and Mike, and made the point that the Cattlemen's Association has done so tremendously well for themselves. They are there people to study, watch, listen, and learn. And they have quality people in the right positions moving forward. They don't have people that go off, like what I think Daniel said it, the people that would want to speak, that should speak, that can carry on conversations and have forethought and good analytical skills and numbers and bring data. Everybody's got a strong point. This is what I tried to point out to one of the trucking trade groups, is use the people that you have on your board, on your staff, in the proper positions so that you can move forward. If you're putting people in the wrong spots, you're never going to move forward. You're never going to accomplish anything as an organization. You've got to put the people in the right spots and know where their abilities are and know where they're not going to function well. You don't put a guy who's really great with numbers in the discussion group. You get him to do the numbers, and then he brings them to you if you're the speaker. You don't put Leland in a group with somebody with numbers, because Leland's good with the regulations. You know, something you have to figure out where everybody on your team is going to fit in.
So how do you get
this was all discussed in the early meeting.
So how do you get somebody like Steve Hilker, who blatantly said that I'm only worried about livestock, I could care less about anybody else? How do you get somebody like that to get in with the rest? I mean, it's trucking.
Yeah.
Money. It's because they have a. It's because they.
But
have
when a guy only cares about what he does, I mean, it's great they got their exemptions and stuff. Go ahead. Sorry.
You got to make sure you got people with the. You can't. You get closed-minded people that don't see the full picture, and then they don't understand that the big picture of everything is, yeah, all he cares about is livestock, cattle, blah 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 blah. But here's the problem. If you don't care about the rest of the industry, if the rest of the industry goes to shit and you're still on top, guess where everybody's going to go? They're going to go to your industry and run your industry into the freaking ground like the rest of them. That's the problem.
Yep.
Guys don't understand. And you have to have an open mind and see the big picture, that whatever you want, You have to worry about what everybody else wants too, because if not everybody's happy and you get your way and everybody else gets screwed in the deal, guess what? They're going to come after what you got, because everybody wants something better than what they've got. And we all have to work together so everybody gets better than what they got. It's just like the discussion I had with a guy the other day. I said we cannot attack any nationality of truck driver, whether they speak English or not. We really should not attack them, because you got to stop and look. Down the road, once they learn English, once they they start seeing what's actually going on and open their eyes and realize that our country's going to the same shithole that they just freaking fled for their lives to get away from, they're going to change and join us and want to fight to keep this country the way it was, so it don't end up like the shithole they came from. And that's the thing we got to get through people's heads, is everybody has to be seen as an asset for the big picture and not discriminate toward them. And
Yep.
yes, the ATA is a disastrous organization, and they're going to destroy us as the truck driver. But we have to look, and like Bill was saying, we have to look and see what works for them and use it for our advantage as well to work the same way they do. And the one thing they do, and they do specifically great and awesome, is they may talk shit amongst their buddies about each other, but when it comes down to business, they're all together as one, and we have to do the same damn thing. And they pick people to speak for them so that they're not all doing the same shit and stepping on each other's toes. They let somebody do it, and they all agree there, and they pick an organization like the ATA, and they pay money into it, and they tell them what they want, and the ATA works around it, figures out the best game plan, and that's what they go with. Because, believe it or not, a lot of these big mega fleets, they're competing against each other every day because it's business. But when it comes to the regulations and the way the government, they work together as one, so they all win. And we have to do the same thing.
And that's a great
Well, to
point on
elaborate
account, because
on your
we have
ATA.
got a lot of truckers that have gone out here and they talk about towelheads, ragheads, and they classify all of them in the same exact group. But I am here to say right now, in 2017, if it wasn't for the Punjabi community, we wouldn't have looked very good at all.
They rocked.
That's true.
Guys,
Well, let's go look at Mayday in
hold on now. I've been trying to get
2020
into
in
this.
Chicago. If it wasn't for the Polacks, the Romanians, and all the other guys, the Polish and the Romanians and the Ukrainians and the Russians that were in Chicago, Chicago wouldn't have looked that good either.
All right, listen.
Just like in Washington, D.C., if they wouldn't have showed up, it'll look like shit.
All right, listen. You guys talked a lot about organizing and stuff and what we can do to organize. But some of the things that we fail in to understand is we're truck drivers. We're truck drivers first. We all need to make a living. And it's very, very difficult to get organized together when we have different schedules. We have conflicting schedules. We're trying to meet with each other. I can't tell you the number of times there was phone calls at 11 o'clock at night. I've been woke up at 1 o'clock in the morning to meetings that were just happening spontaneously. It's hard to communicate as truck drivers. First of all, you're dealing with independent people. We're all truck drivers, and truck drivers by nature are very, very independent-minded people. And they have very little tolerance for making compromises. Getting organized is very, very hard when you're in an unstructured environment. And creating the time for that is very, very difficult. And thirdly, every time we did get organized and we did get something moving and we were making progress, some yahoo, like last year, come out of nowhere because they were inspired, started talking a big game. Everybody dropped the ball, dropped what we organized, and that's what pissed me off about May Day 2020. That's why I didn't attend the event, because I was pissed. Because we had plans. We were supposed to do something, but instead of following the plans and sticking with the plan, everybody dropped the ball and run off to May Day. You didn't stick with a plan, and you blew half a year. What's that?
You're right, John. But what's the key thing?
I said, preach to the church.
No
Come on with it.
But I'll tell you one thing.
No
May Day
structure.
turned out to be a pretty decent event. It did all in all. But you didn't stick with the plan. And that's the problem.
Yeah.
You're not satisfied to stick with what you organized, to stick with the plan and follow it through. We lost 6 months last year on an election year, a critical election year. We lost 6 months that we could have capitalized off from because we dropped the ball.
We dropped the ball
the
because
one
we let
thing-
one end. Hold on a minute. We dropped the ball.
Okay, go ahead.
We truly dropped the ball. because we allowed one individual to call the fucking shots of what was going to be talked about when they were sitting in that White House. And I'm sorry, he's a nice guy, but he was all about one thing, and he wasn't about the big picture. And the other guy let it happen, and I wished he would have opened his mouth, but they only had 30 minutes, and he regrets doing it. I know he does. But you know what? That's what we had played to us at the time. That's what we got people there for at the time. We were working our asses off trying to sell the rest of the plan to everybody there. Trust me, John, we were busting our balls trying to sell the rest of the plan to everybody there.
I watched it. You know what? And I acknowledge it. The May Day event did do something. And there was a lot of people participated. A lot of people put their heart and souls in it. I give them a lot of credit for what they did. And to answer Russell Regal's question, when I'm pissed off and I say I'm not doing something, that's it. I'm better off not to be there. That's why I wasn't there.
Well, in all fairness, too, John, if you remember right, the one person that stuck out of this actually did you and I a favor. When Rose Marie drove all the way, she drove from Pennsylvania up there and was able to give us what was going on during the time during our newscasts, our podcast shows. She was actually coming on and giving us updates. That's how we were finding out some things.
Yeah, we had people there that were feeding us back information like other people do. You know, eyes in the field sort of thing. But, maybe sometimes I feel some regret for not showing up.
When we walked in that White House, I thought we had a really good shot at getting a lot of stuff done and a lot of stuff put out there. But they wanted to stay on one topic, and that's what fucked us. And that one topic was really, it's a topic that needs to be discussed. But in the grand scheme of things, it really wasn't affecting us all that much until that perfect moment in time when it really started affecting us. I mean, it's been a problem all along, but we never really truly looked at it until that one moment in time, and then everything blew up over that one problem.
Well,
but with the other 5-6 problems that we wanted to talk about, we couldn't get in. They couldn't get it in there because everything was devoted. That 30 minutes talk that we had, that 30 minutes of time that we had sitting in the West Wing, was devoted to that one topic. If we'd had the person that was the fireball in there, if he would not have been in there and it had been 2 of our guys instead of just one, I think we would have had a hell of a lot better shot at getting a lot of topics shoved down their throats and definite information thrown at them so they could see what the hell was going on. But we had an outsider. We had an outsider that we did not know that went in that door. Now, he's a good guy. I like the guy. Found out some information about him, but he's a good guy. I mean, he does care about the trucking industry. I mean, if I was in his shoes, I'd care a hell of a lot about the trucking industry.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, but I will say that when you try to throw too much towards the government, they're not going to hear it. They're only going to focus on what they think that they want to hear, and that's a big problem. But I want to address real quickly before, and I hate to cut this short, but I'm going to have to go after this. I want to address a point that John brought up. And you are 100% correct in saying that we all have different schedules. We're all different individuals. And I'm going to brag on my wife for a second here. As I told Mike today, my wife is heavily involved with the American Business Women's Association. She is the president of our local chapter, which is pretty big in our area, the Triad area. That's Winston-Salem, High Point, Greensboro, Jamestown and surrounding areas, and people drive, and before COVID, they would drive for hours for these meetings. So this is the second year she's been president. Last year she was Woman of the Year, and I listen to these ladies, and she tells me about their meetings, and I listen to their Zoom meetings, and they are tremendously organized, even though they are all individual business women. And that's exactly what the ATA does. They have a meeting every so often. They sit down. Everybody comes together. They have their goals. And when they go, if you watch what they do when they go, before COVID came along, They would go to their state congressional offices, to the Capitol, and send 3 to 5 people and have a sheet on what they were going to talk on, 2 to 3 points, and that was the most of it. I'm pretty heavily involved with my North Carolina chapter here over the years, to the point where they asked me to be on their legislative team, but I don't have enough time. I could not commit time to do that. Plus, I also don't exactly agree with everything that they say. I'm very independent, as a lot of guys know. But that's something that we can do. The only reason we're not doing it is because we're not willing to do it. These ladies that I'm talking about that are with my wife in this group of women, they are all willing to help each other, and they're willing to commit to bringing the change and helping each other so that others can learn and change and everything else. And the one question that I would ask Daniel and others to think about is, if the one issue was broker and pay, because if you get the broker straight, you get a lot of the pay straight. Would that not solve a lot of the problems that we have? Because if you got better pay today, right now, let's say you made another 10%, would you not be able to fight, to stand up, to make a stand a whole lot easier? And would you not be more willing to take that stand if you knew you should be making more money? Because you honestly, all of us should be making more money as truckers. We are essential to this country. This country would absolutely stop if everyone walked off the job, even for a couple of days. It would completely stop.
Absolutely.
You're right.
Just
You're
something
right.
to think about.
You're right.
Now, you know,
Hey, can I make a statement? And this is real important to what you guys are talking about. You're going to try to do. And I've been fighting this along with a lot of you guys for a long time. I'm going to ask you a question, and I want each one of y'all to answer this question, and then I want to finish it up. ATA cattlemen, what is that?
ATA
It's an
cattlemen.
association or an organization.
I'm assuming you're referring to two different associations, as in the ATA associations and the cattlemen's associations.
Second part of the question, what are they without people?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Correct. You've got to have something, just like these millionaires and billionaires believe in the ATA. On the cattleman side, millionaires and billionaires believe in the cattlemen, and they come through for them. I know guys, when we were trying to unite all the organizations together, had several conversations with guys that owns 400 trucks. One guy out of Chicago was around 600 trucks. 100 truck fleet owners reached out to me. When you get us that person or this organization that we can believe in, and you all stop fighting amongst each other, we'll invest. And that's what it's going to take. My opinion.
Yeah, that's the thing. We have to come to the table, put a group of people together, maybe different opinions, but come to the table, and at the end of the day, we walk away and not talk shit about each other in open public forum. Amongst each other, yeah, that's going to happen. But in open public forum, no more of it.
Well, listen, the majority of you all on here was on that when we had all them organizations and talking heads, whatever. I hate that name, but people that stood up for the industry. How many people was on that call? They was ever from the Punjabis. They was even one member of OIDA sitting in the background listening. Every single from Tony's group to USTA to anyone that was doing anything trying to help this industry. And what happened a few weeks to follow? Well, I'm not going to work with this and try to take over this and this. You can't have that. It'll fall apart every time. You got to have your vision, and you got to have people that believe in the direction you're headed. And so far, we have failed to do that. for the people that we've been representing as organizations and groups and whatever it be. We've got to have people to believe in us, and as people believe in you and you show the people that you're honest and doing this stuff, there'll be more people to come. And that's what it takes to get this and push you where you need to be is people. 4 or 5 can't do it. 20 can't do it. It takes a lot of people to do this. But anyway, God bless y'all. Y'all have a good one. Yeah, and we'll talk to you later.
All right. Thank you, Greg.
There, Greg.
Okay, guys, we just got
Guys, I gotta go too. It's good talking to you. Thank you for having me be a part of this.
You're welcome, Bill. Thank you for coming in and speaking with us.
Okay, we'll talk to you
There
later.
is
Have a good
one.
night.
So
There is one quick thing I want to add to what Greg was saying, though, John. As much as he was right in what he said, we also had those almighty few that tried to capitalize monetarily on this, and that didn't help us either.
well, you know, the thing of it is, getting back to the MCSAC committee and the discussions, and Russell Regal had a question, but I don't know if you recall in his question, Sean, that whether they talked about broker transparency during the committee or the meetings.
I
don't
didn't
recall
hear
it.
any of that being discussed.
I think there was some sort of discussions about money and stuff and benefits of creating better revenues, but I don't think that I heard anything about broker transparency. But we probably need to pick it up a little bit and talk about some of the positive side. It seems like there were some positive things that happened during that committee, and it seems like there was a few new things. Belazar, I think was where I was going to go next on that. He was talking about, and I forgot, I lost my train of thought with that. But he was talking about, someone said that reminded me of him. I was going to use it as a lead-in, and now I got myself off track.
Well, what Belazar had basically brought up was the fact he was bringing in about he brought in about a little bit of the mental health. Desiree Wood kind of went a little bit step further with that. Belazar was mostly also looking at numbers.
Well, he was. Oh, that's what it was. I know where I was going with it. He brought up about deregulation and the problems that it introduced to the trucking industry. And one of the things that he overlooked or didn't mention during that was, in regards to what you were just saying, is this industry got inundated with charlatans when they deregulated the industry. You got more brokers in this industry that saw it as a cash cow. You've got more people started trucking companies. And one of the issues with the FMCSA is I've got to take a test before I get my CDL license. Before I can drive a truck, I got to take a test to get that license. But nobody has to show an aptitude test to get their authority. Nobody has to show they know or understand the laws in the trucking industry before they get their authority. And a lot of people jumped in during deregulation as charlatans and ripped a lot of people off. They took a lot of advantage
They
of
flooded
the
the
trucking
market.
industry. Huh?
They flooded the market.
They did. It was intentional because what they wanted to do was drive down the rates. It was intentional. That was part of the purpose of deregulation.
And they did a very nice job of it.
Well, it's been a mess for 40 years. It's been a mess. The FMCSA has done nothing in its 21 years of existence to better the industry. I'm sorry to say, but they made it worse. They made it very confusing. You know, every damn time they decide they want to make another proposal, what they ended up doing was create more confusion. I mean, during the course of the hours of service rules, did you start to get confused what the actual hours of service were? Because it was starting to get confusing, talking about all these different numbers and what we could do and here and there. And I'm just talking about reading their proposals and the comments, and then they're changing the things up. Then we think, okay, we're all set with this proposal. Next thing you know, you're going, damn, what hours of service rules am I even running under anymore? We've talked about this shit so much, you don't even know. They keep changing their minds.
Well, and if you remember right, even the FMCSA got a confusion over something as simple as personal conveyance.
Yeah, oh, that got confusing all by itself. Nobody knew what it meant.
I mean, my understanding was that if you were sitting in a shipper or a receiver and you wanted to go eat, you go put yourself on PC, go do what you got to do. You had up to 2 hours, and then you come back, depending on whether or not the shipper constantly lets you go. If your truck broke down, you found a truck stop, You go buy your part, you come back, you fix it, you're back on the road. You get off personal conveyance. Now all of a sudden we can't do that. We got to change things up.
Yeah. So, but I
Question:
saw
Was
some new
anything
stuff.
brought up about insurance?
Actually, I think somebody in there did bring something. I don't remember if it was a guest caller or somebody did bring in that the cost of the industry, where it's rising in cost and stuff, is driving older generation drivers out of the industry and restricting newer generation drivers from advancing into building businesses and such. That was brought
I
up.
want to say that was Jerry.
He talked quite a bit.
Jerry brought up a lot of good points, and of course, Jerry was bringing up a lot of things from what he knew being a driver himself. You could tell the man had been out here a day or two.
Oh yeah.
Just by the way he
he said
talked.
he's somewhere around 73 years old or something. He's in his 70s.
Well, he said he was 75.
75. Oh, I was giving him credit. He sounded a lot younger than 75, and he carried himself well, and he sounds like a very
Yes, he
strong,
did.
healthy man. He remarked that he does go to the gym, and he's trying to get himself fit so he can drive again. And I have met guys, I'm serious as a heart attack, I have met guys 79 and 80 years old out there driving big trucks. And I'm not kidding, over-the-road big truck driving.
But I mean, I think to kind of just recap all this briefly was they've talked about a lot of things that we've been discussing for the last 2 or 3 years. And I don't know if you want to call it they're catching up or the simple fact that they're trying to hash out something that I don't know if they'll ever get it done.
Well, you know how it goes. They talk 100%. They can get about maybe 2.5% actually done, and usually the 2.5% that they get done will be the things you're not interested. Stephen Owings talked a lot about electronics, the use of electronics, as you would expect. He dangled his deceased son. Sorry for his passing of a son, and I understand it.
Yeah. I want to say something about that publicly. I want to say one thing about that publicly. I've pretty much kept my mouth shut on this. Any untimely death is a tragedy.
Yes.
I will agree with that. But the fact of the matter remains, you can't go after the whole trucking industry over what happened in one incident. To me, this makes about as much sense as a professional basketball player suing a shoe company because they're claiming they can't make the damn shoe good enough to fit the hardwood.
Well, you question after so many years whether it's maybe I shouldn't say it like that, but you start to wonder, are you exploiting it? Is he exploiting the circumstance to get what he wants, as opposed to actually having heartfelt sorrows any longer? When you get wrapped up in this so long, I question. And somebody brought it up. I think it was Dan brought it up earlier today. If we had deceased loved ones to dangle in front of Congress, we would get more done.
Well, and Dad
I don't want to do that.
And
I don't want to exploit the passing of a loved one. I just don't.
I don't think it's right.
I don't either. Not in these regards, because it requires critical thinking. It requires logic and reasoning. And that is interjecting an emotional feeling where it should not be interjected. And that's been the problem with the regulations or the process of making regulations is too many people, and that's what happened to Ann Farrell. Ann Farrell wasn't that bad of a person to appoint to that position when she first went in. But you had people going in there doing just that, exploiting the loss of loved ones. And she got her emotions involved, and it cost her career as an administrator. She had no intentions on leaving. She was forced to leave. We know that.
Anyway, what else did you want to talk about? I
Well,
want to get away from Owens.
We actually went just about 2 hours. I probably would have liked to got a little bit more into the MCSAC, but I think we kind of give people the gist of it. Like I said, there were some good things that come out there. They had some really nice presenters that covered a lot of good material. I can't get real deep into it because I can't recall it right off the top of my head, everything as far as getting deep into what they said. And of course, Sean and I were working when we were listening to this. We weren't just sitting here taking notes. I would love to have sat down and take notes, and I think the next time I may take the day off just to do it, to get deeper into it.
The one thing I will bring when they were talking about driver certificates for your certification, they couldn't understand why there was a slight decrease in 2018. Well, here's your answer. Some of the drivers were getting out because they didn't want no part of the ELDs.
Yes. Yeah.
I won't say it was all of them, but I know a lot of drivers that said, we're done. Two trucking companies actually shut the doors because the drivers told them. Howard Bear was one of them. Actually, their drivers actually told Howard, we are not doing the LDs. We're done. Howard closed the doors. He gave drivers recommendations for their next position, wherever they were wound up at.
I took my glasses off, but I can read somewhat here what Russell's saying. We need to make a plan to achieve success. They clearly told us we are barking up the wrong. That's the way I was meant.
That's
we've
pretty
heard
much
that
what
a
Dan
lot.
was
We've
saying.
heard a lot of misinformation and misdirection in the past. I think when we've tried to go to the FMCSA, I'm sorry, but I heard things come out of people's mouths going, but that's not right. They told you that? Oh, yeah, that's what they said. I'm like, but that's not right. And as far as the ELD thing goes, we'd be remiss not to mention that. At the beginning of yesterday's meeting, they did say that they wanted to tap into the electronics being used in the trucking industry for collecting data. Meaning they truly want that electronic logging device to use you to gather information.
Why do they want to gather the information, John?
So they can make new regulations to regulate us more, so they can use that data to better build their autonomous devices, such as they did come down the pike recently that the NHTSA is planning on mandating that manufacturers now have to put automatic braking systems on large commercial motor vehicles.
But Desiree had brought out, she had talked to one of those automators, and they had claimed that there would be a 50% decrease in so many years. But that was also proved to be not exactly a true statement. So Desiree actually brought up a very good point.
She brought up a lot of good points. She did a good job representing truck drivers there, and she was a guest. And that's something that people might like to take from this is, with the one benefit to technology is before when they used to have MCSAC meetings, they would meet in D.C. and they were open for public observation. But what did you have to public? Unless you were going to go there, how would you know, right? And so with the use of meeting rooms, electronic devices, Zoom or whatever. This one happened to be Microsoft. What was that? Teams, I think is what it's called. And,
Microsoft Teams.
And so you get to view it right there off your cell phone. You can be driving down the road. You don't have to watch it. I mean, I was just listening. The screens, the images on the screens were too small to see anyway, and you weren't going to see what they were sharing as far as the pages and stuff goes. But you got a lot from listening to it. So, I mean, it's an avenue for drivers to think about. The next time they have a MCSAC meeting, go to Eventbrite and register for it. And listen to it next time. And if you feel compelled to say something, that's one thing that they're not required to do, but they did do is allow folks like myself or Desiree or it's her Dingo is one of her associates, it's the Real Women in Trucking. She got to speak at one point in time. Several other people did, and we're not members of the MCSAC. We're just people observing. We're truck drivers or other members of the trucking industry. So,
and God, whatever you do, don't point something out that's the truth to Todd Spencer.
Don't do what?
Don't point out something that's the truth to Todd Spencer.
Maybe it's not that you pointed out the truth, it's just how you go about it. You didn't get derogatory. You didn't call him Acorn in that.
No, I didn't call him Acorn.
But, so yeah, basically, that is one takeout from it is they are generous enough to allow us an opportunity to speak, and obviously the What I told them was that they need to revisit the regulations. It's the regulations that are driving the older generation out of the. I basically just blatantly told them that, and they didn't. And I told them, I said, I'm not trying to be rude or offensive. I'm just trying to be honest and direct. And they seem to think that.
And that's the only way you can be. And what you said, I mean, by saying we are tired of over regulations, we are tired of it. This is why the older generation is getting out. I mean, at best, I only expect to be out here another 10 years, at best. Then, if I decide to do regional work, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, you've got the drivers coming in behind you and I, and Leland and Scotty, even with Scotty, as young as he is.
Oh yeah, he's
They're
got a long
coming
life ahead
in.
of him. Yeah, but the thing about it is, there's a lot of it. We know this for a fact. Through the last 4 or so years, a lot of older guys that were due for retirement took the retirement because they were fed up with the regulations, and that's exactly what they told us. They wanted to stay in it. They wanted to stay in it longer. Some guys never wanted to quit, but they got out of it for that reason, because there's no point in being in an industry where you're going to be so restricted you can't have your sense of independence any longer. Yeah, we used to cheat on the logbooks when it was paper because we had to. They admitted the hours of service rules were broken. What were we supposed to do? Were we supposed to follow them and put our own lives at risk? Were we supposed to follow them and put the public at risk? Let's face it, when you drive, when you sleep all night, then you get up and you drive an hour, you go unload for 5 hours, you drive for 2 hours, you go reload for 5 hours, you drive for 2 hours, you're fueling. There's a 15-hour day that you only worked 5 hours and you're just resting all damn day long. What are you shutting down for? Why the hell are you shutting down? Because the law says so. So now, when you get to drive, you're exhausted. This is contradictory. We know this. That's why we cheated. You had to cheat to be safe and productive. And we understood that.
Well, and they were trying to shut 25 hours in a 24-hour day.
Yeah.
I mean, the one thing that was brought up that we hadn't talked about yet, and this is something that I am a little bit stringish on more so than now, the fact that they brought up about training, but yet though, what I've got, the problem I've got is these mega carriers can talk to these students day one, promise them the world, they'll get them out of they'll pay for their tuition, but yet though the driver has to sign a 2-year contract, or whatever it takes to pay the loan back. Okay, I'll state it that way, whatever it takes to pay the loan back. The stories I've been hearing, it's up to 2 years. As a friend of mine pointed out today, at 35 cents a mile, you're going to spend that 2 years to pay it back.
What they're creating is a form of indentured servitude by doing such a thing. Russell,
and I feel like really what they should do is let these drivers be in school for a couple, 3 weeks, whatever the course is, let them at least get a quarter of it out of the way, because they're still deciding at this point if they really want to be in it or not. Then maybe they could take a look at their test scores, and the trucking company can actually see what they're getting, instead of some kid getting promised the world from day one, and then he's just going to run mediocre and float through the class just enough to get by. That's the ones I consider under the merit test.
So now Russell brought up a thing I gotta address here, because he said this, and I'm not trying to contradict you erroneously, but just to be clear on it, Russell, the ELD mandate says that it's for hours of enforcement within DOT inspections. So when you're doing roadside inspections, the officer's only allowed to use the electronic logging device for hours of service enforcement. However, the statute says, the federal, the legislative act says that the secretary may use the electronic logging device for other purposes, for other regulatory purposes. So they did give her or him now, and or her, depending on how you want to look at it, an open slate. I'm sorry,
I'm not going to go there with you, John.
I really shouldn't have.
You know how I feel about this.
But so basically they give them some flexibilities to use the ELD and the capacity of the Department of Transportation for other means. So just to clear it up, because sometimes there's some confusion about that. But Sean, I've got to get off from here, man. I got an early day tomorrow.
Yeah, I need to get across Wyoming. And John, as always, it's been a pleasure being with you.
It's been a long time. It's been 4 months. 4 months since
I know. The last time we got together was Arlene.
Yes. Yeah, we miss Arlene. We're sorry that she's gone, because she really made, made these shows. She did.
Oh, John, I would be remiss if I did not repeat one of Arlene's sayings.
Uh-oh.
How's your rooster, John?
Early to rise and crows. That's funny.
I just had to give that to you one more time for old time's sake.
Arlene was a kick. She really was. I enjoy mention Arlene. I met Chris through Arlene, and I really thoroughly enjoy doing the shows with Chris and Todd as well, of course. But if it wasn't for Arlene, I would have never met him. We hit it off pretty good. Got a pretty good friendship.
Well, and when Chris came on our shows, and he was actually, I got a lot of compliments about Chris being on our podcast, and the fact of what Chris brings up and he brings to the table. So I look for him to do very well over at, what is it, WSMI?
WSMN 1590 AM and WSMN 95.3 FM, Nashua, New Hampshire. Absolutely, real live broadcasting. Fun.
So, and how do you like doing that now, John?
Fun. Actually, it's different, because when you're doing this, you see numbers, you see things. When it's real live radio, you don't know who's listening. You got 400,000 people out there within listening range or more, and you really don't know who's listening or how many people's listening, and it's a total different feeling because it's radio, And here I got some controls that you don't have.
That was going to be my question. That was the question I would have asked you. What would you see the difference between regular radio versus podcast?
It feels like a different energy. It really does. Podcasting is fun, and we've had a lot of reach doing podcasting. We've had times when we reach thousands and thousands of people that I know of, which is interesting within itself. It's not really about how many people you reach. It's how many people enjoy what you do, And if you get the kind of feedback that you feel like people have a sense that people enjoy it, then it kind of makes it more interesting. So don't be too bashful about hitting them like buttons there, people. We don't mind. But
does the radio station give you what kind of numbers they think you're getting?
You never know on the radio station who's listening, who's not listening, or how many. So it's just that's the nature of radio, right? Because it's not digitized like this is. So you can't get any kind of what's it called, analytics in that regard. Mm-hmm. But a friend, the station owner says to me, George and I have been friends for a lot of years, and he says to me, John, if you want to know how many people's listening, make a mistake, because they'll write in and let you know they hate your guts.
Well, gee. Okay, I'm going to leave that one alone.
Hey, you guys have a good night, John.
All right, you too, Sean. Daniel. Thank you for calling in.
You too, Dan. Thanks for calling. So, John, I guess we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Tomorrow night, we have the Christian Truckers channel.
No, that's Thursday night. Tomorrow night we're doing
Thursday.
Conservatives.
Tomorrow night you have the Conservative with John Grosvenor and Todd McKinley and Chris Wyatt. Thursday you have the Truckers Christian channel, and the girl's going to be on this Sunday.
I think they're going to come back in August. The last I heard, don't quote me on that. They're trying to. I think they're reformatting a little bit, trying to figure out how they want to reprogram and take a little time off.
Does that mean you're going to give TJ back her broom?
Oh, God. She found that. Trust me, she found that broom. Nothing holds that woman back. We all know that. Come on, it's TJ.
Well, if I see a TikTok with you and her, I'll know what happened.
Yeah, right. If you see a TikTok in my grave, you know what happened.
So, John, we need to do this again.
Yeah, I think we, you and I've talked about doing this on a regular basis on Tuesday nights. See what we did? We gave them Sunday nights and took their Tuesday nights. Tuesday night's a better night.
Oh, but they stole
Warlocks
Sundays
win.
from us.
Do what?
They stole Sundays from us, remember?
Oh, yeah, well, let them have it.
Yeah, well, you can tell Cheryl I said that.
Sunday's a good night if you're doing this. Good night, Russell. It's a good night if you're gonna do this. Because you get the day off, you can plan. You know what I mean? It's a little more relaxing when you're trying to work. You're going, oh man, I'm supposed to do this show, and especially with the Wednesday nights when it's live radio, because I have to be in that station no matter what. Because if I'm not there, they're going to have dead air for an hour, and I'm going to hear it from the owners. So I better not have a blowout. I better not have engine failure. I better have my butt there. I don't want to really test the waters on that.
Probably would be not wise. So, do we have anybody else that has any questions, comments, or feedback?
No, I think we're pretty much wrapping it up. If Russell left, it's time to end the show, right?
So, thank you all for listening tonight. This is the TIBN Network.
All right, we'll catch you another time. Y'all have a good night.